Welcome back to the show. I'll be getting to your messages shortly, but let me just tell you about climate action. From waste to maggots and maggots as feed for livestock, fish and poultry. Need Eco Feed as an innovative project that uses abattoir waste to generate feed farmers. This circular economy approach to fighting climate change has been something that's been championed. On Climate Focus today, we present the story of Neat Eco Feed, where maggot is turned into a valuable commodity.
Here in Zebula, a small town in the Upper East region, a young entrepreneur is doing something novel in Ghana, or maybe in Africa. His company, Neat Eco Feeds, is producing animal feed, rich in protein. His raw material is waste from homes, abattoirs, and markets.
Throughout Ghana and other parts of Africa, tons of slaughter weights are produced from abattoirs, and what most of them do is that they dump them into water bodies, and others allow them to decay and emitting methane gas and other toxic gases that are affecting the ozone layer and having effects on the climate. And so what we did was that we crafted out of our environmental policy the recycling of the abattoir waste from our own abattoir and that of other abattoirs within the Upper East region. Yes, when the suppliers are many. So I want us to build a database.
Lincoln Winimipida is the Chief Executive Officer of Neat Meat Limited. He holds a master's degree in business planning and microfinance management from the University for Development Studies, Tamale, Ghana. His business model has a huge impact on climate change and the source of income of 3,000 guinea fowl farmers in Ghana.
There are various forms of animal rearing. We have the intensive and the extensive. And so from your point of view, the extensive kind of rearing is where the animals are allowed to graze openly. And that goes a long way to affect the environment because they graze off all the grass. Some of them even stumble on the soil, and that helps to make the soil very hard, and doesn't augur well for crop production. And so what we do is that our feed, once you have it, the farmers come in for it, their birds and their livestock are housed indoors, and so they are fed on it. And so it helps prevent the incidence of them going out to affect the environment by stumbling on them.
Africa produces less than 1% of the feed produced globally, despite the continent's ever-increasing need to feed its livestock and poultry. The rise of fish meal and soy meal production is causing global issues such as overfishing and deforestation. Meeting the growing demand for protein to feed farm animals requires an alternative source of protein. At Neat Eco Feed, protein means maggot.
These are very, very high in protein. They contain about 60% protein, and they are very suitable for aquaculture, for poultry production, and even for livestock and other piggery projects. And so far, we started in 2018. We have been able to mop close to between 20 to 25 tons of waste from these abattoirs, and we'll be able to recycle that to produce this maggot feed.
Isn't it amazing? So I have two people to join me to have a quick conversation about this rather nice and innovative idea. Lincoln Winimipida is CEO of Neat Meat Limited. He joins me on Zoom. Lincoln, it's good to have you. Good afternoon. Okay, I'm hoping that you've heard me, you've responded, but do unmute the button on your Zoom. I also have joining this conversation the Netherlands ambassador to Ghana, Ron Stricker. Sir, thank you very much. This is the second time we're talking to you on this show. The last time would have been about 3 or so years ago. It's good to see you once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let me start with you, Lincoln. Lincoln, I want you to tell us a bit more about your solution. We've seen it put together, but wrap it up for us in just a few sentences and describe for me in very simple language so that everybody can understand, if they didn't follow the video, what your solution is. Hi, Lincoln, you're muted. Can you unmute so I can hear you? Okay, so whilst we get Lincoln to unmute his Zoom, let me come to you, Mr. Stricker. Is there really, from your perspective, a climate change emergency? People have said that we are exaggerating. What's your perspective on that?
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be on your show here today, and I'm very happy actually also that you pay attention to climate change. I think it's a very important issue. Of course, we are living at the moment through difficult times because of COVID and Corona, but climate change, of course, is now and in the further future a much bigger threat. So I think there is an enormous urgency. If we want to limit, of course, the increase of the temperature, the global temperature, to maximum 2 degrees, we have to do a lot of things. I can describe what all we have to do, but I mean, what it means in essence, of course, is that there is a very high sense of urgency to do something about climate change. And I think that basically comes down as a sort of duty to all countries in the world and also all citizens in the world. So yes, we are living in a sense of urgency when we talk about climate change.
Okay, I get you on that. Let me bring you in, Lincoln, if we can hear you at this point, to break it down for us in a few sentences, in plain, simple language, the way my grandmother will understand what your solution is, how it works. Okay, we have to do the unmute again, Lincoln. We have to do the unmute again. So I'm going back to Mr. Stricker. Sir, I do appreciate, and I'm sure a lot of people do, the support that your organization gives to some of these causes. Talk about WASH, you know, sanitation, water and sanitation, talk about health and reproductive rights. Let's talk, take an overview of the support that your organization is providing to some of these entrepreneurs like Lincoln who are pushing for climate action.
Thank you very much. I think, I mean, without going into sort of the broad spectrum of activities that we are supporting, going from aid to trade, by the way, which corresponds, of course, to the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda of the government. Without doing that too much in detail, I think our support to the GCIC combines very nicely two things. The first thing is that it pays attention to the need to do something about climate change. And secondly, it promotes entrepreneurship. We have, with partners over the years, initiated and also implemented many entrepreneurs promotion programs just to stimulate entrepreneurship in Ghana, because we know, of course, that Ghana really thrives of entrepreneurs, dynamic entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, men and women. And I think they will contribute a lot to the economic empowerment, of course, of the country, and they are doing that already. So we've done that through the GCIC, we've done that in other programs. We had a growing business together program. We have an Orange Corner program where we focus not so much on startups, but on accelerators. But the red thread, the common thing there is that we promote entrepreneurship. And with this center, the Ghana Climate Innovation Center, jointly with the World Bank and also I think with support from Denmark, we have been able to focus really on the climate change activities, to support and promote green technology and the development of green technology here in Ghana, so that we really can contribute to the greening the economic empowerment of this country.
That's That's very interesting. I want you to take us on a journey of the impact of some of these interventions that you put in. Are you seeing the result? I mean, of course, when we talk about climate change and climate action, it's a long-term result we're looking at. And so there's that. But elaborate on us the sort of result or impact you have seen so far, at least if we're talking about jobs, for example, revenue. What can you say to that?
I think we are still in a very initial stage. And I think that is basically the implication which I hear, of course, in your question. And I think that assumption is correct. That's just correct. We are just at the beginning. Nevertheless, in this center, we have already seen the development and the training and the making professional of more than 100 entrepreneurs. And I think you've seen in the example of eco-feeds, of course, that there is innovation, there is entrepreneurship, and there is jobs, because also all those young entrepreneurs and young companies, they create jobs. I've seen another example, which is called Zakol, where I think it's a bit similar to eco-feeds, where a company and a young entrepreneur transform the remains of the coconut, which we, of course, find a lot along the streets, because people have drank the liquids, the contents of the coconut. They transform it in charcoal so that you can burn that. And so you have clean energy, and you don't have to cut trees anymore. And also there, with a new factory in Dodowa, they have created jobs. I'm not sure how many, but I guess between 10 and 20 jobs only in the initial stage. So what the immediate future means, more training of entrepreneurs. We certainly will go into the hundreds. And of course, in the end, I think hundreds, but rather thousands of jobs will be created. So there will be the initiation, the start of a green, innovative economy in Ghana.
That sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. And I do appreciate that not everybody is on board, because not everybody has really understood the implications of our action on the climate but slowly and steadily we'll get there. So thank you very much. Unless you have any final thoughts, we'll end it there.
Now, yeah, I think your last comment, sorry, I find that very interesting, and I think it's very right that you say that. The perception that climate change is basically a problem for somebody else, I think, is wrong. We should recognize, however, of course, that the climate change, because it's CO2 emissions, of course, was largely created elsewhere, and not in the developing countries, and not in countries like Ghana. But of course, as we try to contain or to limit or to reduce enormously in terms of emissions what we do, I think we should work together with a country like Ghana to make sure that the green empowerment and development here is much greener and does not make the same mistakes that we have made in some of our countries.
100% agree with you. Lincoln, do we have you there still, Lincoln?
Hello.
Oh, fantastic. We do hear you. I'll have the ambassador stay on with us so that he can also hear you and what you're saying. So I wanted you to take us through your solution. Give us the background, the basic idea of your innovation, and in just a few sentences so we can understand it if we didn't see the video.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm honored to have been a discussion with Ambassador of the Netherlands to Ghana. I think it's a big opportunity. So quick one, basically, so we operate a meat processing company way back in 2014 called Meat Company. And so we generated lots of waste. And you agree with me that throughout the country, lots of waste is being generated from the abattoirs. And what they do is that they dump this waste on river bodies and in around the abattoirs, which is causing a lot of hazards. We also identified that our supplier farmers for meat spent a lot, almost 60 to 70% of their budget on feed. And so we realized that there was a need for us to convert this waste that we generate from our abattoir and other abattoirs within the Upper East region to produce feed, and that was how the idea started.
Okay.
And so we went ahead to pilot this in 2018, and I can tell you 2 years down the line, we are processing this slaughter waste to produce the maggots, which are then processed to dry maggot feed, which are further processed to powdery maggot feeds. And we are working to produce pellet feed out of the powdered feed. And all in all is to help, reduce the accumulation of waste in the system.
Great.
And also to ensure that we reduce the cost of production of the supplier farmers that supply their best to need meat.
I'm sure that the farmers and the people who benefit from this innovation are very excited. But tell us briefly, finally, how this can be replicated in other regions and other communities. I know that lots of people in the northern region watch this show, they watch this channel. If any of these young people are watching, how can they replicate your solution to, maximize the benefit we're getting from this?
Is easily replicable, but it goes with some technology if you want to do it on a commercial base. And so it's replicable if you want to do it on a small scale, maybe for your fish farm or maybe for your poultry farm. Yes, but to go commercial, you will need some additional technology to be able to go commercial as we are currently doing.
Lincoln, I'll say a very big thanks to you and congratulations. Keep doing what you're doing and rope in more of these young people so they can share the idea of climate action among their peers. Thank you. Lincoln Winimi Peda is CEO of Neat Meat Limited. It's one of the innovative ways of dealing with the climate issues that we have and taking climate action. Before him, I had a conversation, and in fact, I made him wait for us as well. Ron Stricker is the ambassador to Netherlands, Ghana's Netherlands ambassador to Ghana, who also joined in that conversation. That's an organization supporting climate action through the Ghana Climate Innovation Center.